Whoa. What a day to come back. Oh, I hate it when I get these windows. Hello, 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 and welcome back. Welcome back to you, Dukasoft, for another one line of code. Guess who I am? 1 teen. Oh, that's better. Oh, that's so much better. Oh, look at this rain. I am one line. And TBD Gamer is also here and went directly to lurk. But the official first of the stream was Good VJ, aka Snazzy Gill. I got your message, Snazzy. That is awesome. Very, very, very cool news. Zaid is here. Hello, Zaid. I called you Zaid on a call. It was hilarious. You still never told me whether your name is actually Zaid. Your handle is actually Zaid or Zaid. At least I don't think you did. Anyway, hi. Zaid like paid. So maybe you did, because I do remember you saying that. Good. Good. And Mojo is here as well. All the amazing, wonderful, phantasmal people have shown up. I am not distracted. I shouldn't be distracted. Today was a relatively easy day so far. There were a lot of things that I was still setting up. I did go ahead and get I put some things together. And I've been working on doing all that stuff all day today. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been a crazy time helping Zaid get set up. But yeah, as you know, I'm going to say this out loud so that you can hear it. You're always welcome to contact me if you need me, except between 7:30 and 8:30 and when I stream. I mean, when I stream, of course, you can come in here and talk, but whatever. You know what I mean. And Copperbeardy is here. Good grief. I need to start doing some shoutouts. Let's start with TBD Gamer. If you guys don't know TBD Gamer, he is an app dev who now on Mondays and Tuesdays has been working on game dev because he's been needing just a change of pace and didn't want his Monday and Tuesday community. And Copperbeardy is not currently streaming. Good to know. But for TBD Gamer, he's just working on learning Godot and playing around with game dev. But on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he's still working on the Liquid Sky. It's been too long. I'm pretty sure it's called Liquid Sky. His project management app. So, yeah, definitely check him out. It's at 7 a.m. I was going to say 5 a.m. because that's what time it is for me. 7 a.m. Eastern time, which is UTC -4 currently. So if you happen to be around, give him a check. Check him out. Watch him do the amazing things. I've already forgotten how to do streaming, so no, I'm going away from that window. It was nice when the camera was sitting still. The bot is no longer take over. Go away message. So yes, thank you, Dukasoft, for reminding me. This was more for me than anyone else. We're currently working on a project called the Financial Management Tracker. I will continue with this until we finish the redesign. And then what'll happen is we'll most likely start pulling in elements of my normal day job. It's hard for me to answer questions right now in Discord, Good VJ, but I will respond to them after the stream. Unless you want to know during the stream, in which case I can just tell you. Yes, day job. So my day job and the only job that I will be doing, at least for a while, is going to be back at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, the stuff that I used to stream in the past. So we will be seeing a lot of actual app dev for applications that have existed since the beginning of time, or it feels like that, and drinking water, of course. Cool. So I will read that then and then answer. My shoulder is itching. But just to give a quick indication of the things that I'm working on currently for that job, let me open up Figma. Wait, is my Figma in this browser only logged into my free, or is it logged into automated rooms? It's not logged in at all. Which one is the automated rooms login? It's gotta be this one. But the password isn't saved. Oh. Give me a second. Oh, dude. Pro streamer time. Figma. Okay, so this browser should always be logged into Automated Realms Figma. Yes, exactly. It's actually BadgerSex123, but I'm not telling anyone that. Okay, back to files. Okay. What even is this? Oh, wow. My Fig Jam is on. Oh my gosh, Shoulder, what are you doing? My Fig Jam is on that. Anyway, back to desktop. Okay. So, back to files. This is what I have been working on. Of course, it's called redesign in this screen, but that was because I was doing it in the free version, and then I just upgraded to a subscription so that I can have more than one board, essentially more than one page. I think it's like 3 pages that you get for free. But you can see that I was putting all of the components on the page as well as the actual app design. And so you guys might recognize this app from before. Hey, look, it's me. Let me move my. Yeah. Oh, it's not going to do the waving because it's not a Fig Jam. But anyway, point is, I have the actual pages. You're not going to see that in this one because I'm still in the process of moving stuff over. The actual pages and designs and put together designs. So this is all Figma. Can you believe that? I'm actually getting somewhat proficient at Figma. It's kind of fun, not gonna lie. But these are components, and if I wanted, I could make this list item a completely different one. So if I wanted it to be site ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then it's site ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe. Maybe not. Weird. Anyway, everything does work, I promise. But yeah, these are the components for the RMA Water app. And I am currently working on fully implementing this well system maintenance page so that they have a way to update the wells in a given system And so that's what this is all for. I just now finished putting this, this morning I finished putting all of these together and making these components fully customizable with the whole make it disabled, make it expanded. Wait, show label. That was really weird that the label disappears when I toggle the state to disabled, even though it's there. Yeah, and the background isn't updating. Unless that is the background color. Kind of looks like it is. But anyway, point is, there's going to be lots and lots of fun happening with my normal job that we're going to be able to see actual software dev for a customer and people that are going to be using that. But for now, we're going to keep playing in the financial management tracker application because I really, really, really do want to get this app done. I would love to be able to use this. The place that we ended off with was in CodePen, using some code that friendly people found for us as an example. I have the hero section disappearing into the nav bar on scroll down, which was awesome because if you look inside of here, there's absolutely no JavaScript and it's still doing this effect. And it looks so good. I love that. It's subtle. It just disappears lightly, exactly what I wanted it to do. It's amazing. So the next thing that I want to do is style these sections, which they aren't terrible as they are, but of course they don't look very real life application-y. So we are going to go back to the Figma app and figure out what we're going to do with these sections. And I kind of have them opposite in this picture. So which one do we like more? Do we like it with the first section as purple and then the second section as the dark color? And then the bottom would still be this. Do we like that? Do we like this one better? And not just that, what's up with the background color on this section? Interesting. So do I just have this background? No. Weird, yeah. I'm just gonna what am I gonna do? Yeah, I'm gonna replace you with this. Dude. But anyway, hi everyone. I know it's been a while. I have been keeping myself busy. I wrote as much documentation as I could, and hopefully it is enough, at least to keep, or to oh my gosh, my brain, to provide enough information for the person that backfilled my position to at least get started with working on the features or whatever it is that they are starting with in the very, 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 very early stages. which it seemed like they were already getting on top of doing a bug fix and had some ideas on it, which was great. Oh, I wish I could see your outline. Effects. Stroke. Make it white. Thank you. Are you snapping? It is snapping. Okay, good. Fantastic. So, as you can tell, I have no idea how to stream. I have completely forgotten. Everything has escaped my brains, and I am lost. Purple 2. Okay. So what do we think? Which one do we like more? The one with, and I guess I can just duplicate this so that we can see it a little bit more side by side. Oops. I'm also going to clean up the Figma boards so that we have something, not boards, you know what I meant. Design file so that we have something that's actually workable. So we're going to make you purple 2 and make you some dark color. Cool. Okay, so which one is better? I don't like the solid color at all. The solid purple color. It seems like it needs something to break it up in both cases. So I don't like it when it's used here nor here. What does that mean? And why are you a section? It's like, it makes sense when it's something this small, where there's this hero section that's, I mean, I guess it's kind of the same as that hero section there, where it's got a full width background that should work even on super wide screens with a title and text. But then this has like a large description placeholder, and I don't have a large description, but I could. But then we break into these taller sections that seem more like full screen sections than they do just regular sections. So I guess we're going to figure that out. But like I said, we're going to clean some stuff up first while I think about that, just so that I can get organized. I really do need to know what account is signed in. Maybe I shouldn't look at that on screen. Yeah. I also want to move this over into my automated realms Figma. And actually, you know what? That's not a terrible idea. Oh, oh. Tyndall has a, yeah, a nice little reminder that there is this Visual Studio extension called Nodocs. Excuse me. Tyndall, a fantastic member of this community, and we are proud to be a member of his community as well. He is a software app developer modernizing legacy applications. Anyway, he wrote this extension that will allow you to have masked out keys in JSON and XML files. Not keys, values. In JSON and XML values, so that you don't accidentally share your stuff to people that you don't mean to be sharing your stuff to. Oh, that's what happened. Javale. Oops. When I copied this over, I didn't actually copy the outer frame. Dang it, why didn't you frame the thing? Dude. That's better. Except that now everything is dagnabbit. You know what? Forget it. Forget it. Forget I said anything. There. Okay. That's what I wanted. Yeah, this really needs some help on both. But let's go ahead and recreate this. I'm going to start from the basic components that I can tell are going to be on here and reused, such as in buttons. Do I already have the button somewhere? That's the problem with not being organized. But we're going to move this over to the automated realms boards so that we can have more pages to work with and organize it the way that I would normally organize this. And I say I would normally organize it because I have been working in Figma so much lately that I think that I have developed a pattern. Oh, and I completely forgot. I'm going to read GoodVJ's message real quick. How is the current recession in the industry as per your experience? Does the presidential election will affect it positively or negatively this year or coming year? You can answer on stream. Oh. I don't know. So it's really easy for me to answer those questions because I don't keep track of any of that at all. I don't know. If anyone does have an answer or a response that they would want to give that lives in the US regarding little mini washers that are less than a quarter inch. Anyway, that was weird. I felt a lump in my mouse pad. So anyway, terrible. The thing that you saw happen to me, GoodVJ, was that I went from working at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal to getting contacted by a recruiter for Sagetti, took that position, worked there, found out that that wasn't the environment for me to thrive in, and now I am back to working for Navarro directly at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. And so I haven't really needed to see what the job market is like. But if you talk to someone like Mojo or Zaid, you might get a better indication of how they think the economy is doing as far as job market, as far as whether the recession is affecting it or the election. But it hasn't really impacted me all that much. Figma. Okay. Figma, files, team. This is kind of weird though, because it's like what I wanted to do is create a new team called Stream Projects. And it has me invite people, but then it has me pick a plan for it. And it's like, I have a plan already. So do I actually need to pay more for another team grouping? Because that doesn't make sense. I already paid. Anyway, it looks like I'm going to be putting it in this team project. We're going to add a new design. Okay. Where did I put you? I put you there. So, one thing that I learned during my time was this really cool technique. Since we don't have a way to make folders in Figma designs, one recommendation was to use separators for sections. And that's just an empty page with the page title being the name of the section. Oh yeah, that I forgot about that. It's a weird thing that happens when you do it like this. What did I end up using? Equal signs? No. That's so weird. I really don't remember what I ended up using. Let's use underscores. Okay, so this is going to be my page header for the components. And actually, probably one of the first things you want is your cover page. And I think that it is actually a special type of page. And I forget how you do any of these things. Like I said, I've been working in this a lot lately, which is why I can't remember a single thing about how it works. Anyway, point is, put this in the middle, make a nice little square. We're going to call this, oh, right. Man, so many things to do for setup. We're going to make the background color just something dark for now so that we don't have to stay blinded. And put some text on there that is light-ish. And we're going to say that this is the financial management tracker. We'll keep that in its own. Design. Make you really big. Maybe a little too big. You have that size. Have you wrap. That's wrapping. That's how I wrap. Right. Oops. You top left and right. Now we can make you just a little bit wider. Thank you. Put you at 0, 0 for now. What is half of this? Calculator. I can do the math in my head. It's 343. So we go negative 343. Half of 548 is 274. Okay, so that should be right in the middle. And I block chat so I can't see anything. Why can't I see chat? Star. Is that what I used? That works. That works perfectly. Thank you for the suggestion. I hope that wasn't really loud, but my coaster was stuck to the bottom of my cup and just smashed my keyboard. Okay, so we have a cover page. Usually you put some kind of description. Maybe make the height auto. It is auto. Weird. Oh my goodness, this is so difficult suddenly. It's because I'm on stream. 18. Oh geez. Forgive me. I needed to expel some brain matter. I'm good now. Okay. Financial. Hello, welcome back, TBD Gamer. I hope your stand-up went well. Forgive me, I am a little bit dizzy from sneezing about 80 times. I'll regain my consciousness soon. Right now it's floating around the room freely. So we're doing this in a more official capacity now. We are, well, not official capacity. It was just a lot of sneezes. We're doing this in a more professional way, with a more professional approach. And so I'm creating a cover page for the financial management tracker, which this background is actually going to be a background. I'm going to go ahead and put this up here, like show. And we're going to give it one of the colors, but we're going to set up the library next. So I think the order that I would actually go in is even before doing the cover page. I would set up the library if it's the first time. However, I'm not used to yet using or creating multiple designs in one file, in one Figma design thing, or actually in one Figma organization is what I mean. It was a breeze. So, I'm thinking I want one project that will serve as my color library for all of the possible colors that I would use across Automated Realms apps. And then if ever there is a product that I'm creating via Automated Realms for a client and they use colors that are vastly different or very proprietary to their application, I would only leave those in that design file only. I am so good at writing words. standard automated realms colors. I don't know. And then we put more actually descriptive words in there. As you go along in Figma, I recommend naming things. So let's go ahead and set up this library. I am going to make it a local library, I think. Naming is hard. It's so true. So very true. So these are the colors that we had already come up with. Again, I'm using the original designs here, or the original redesigns, I guess, here. Took me all, oh, wait. I missed a thing. TBD Gamer says, I don't know if you saw, but I kind of reset on the UI last week. I was just looking at Figma. I have no idea how components work, etc., but I would like to design some of the pages. Awesome. So it took me all weekend to get the login page to work again. If you have the capacity to, I will be creating components today that are going to be used to replace our just thrown together stuff that is strewn about. So I can give you some lessons learned that I have run into, as well as just some hopefully tips. So one thing that I recently started using a lot of, especially from the RMA water redesign, are these local variables here. And so you can see that when I copied this over, because they were local variables in this project, when I copied them, they became local variables in this design file. But I would have set these up all by myself. But something that I just learned are variable collections. So I'm going to call this collection my just colors. All possible colors that could exist throughout any of my designs. And within that, I'm going to move all of these. Oops. Which I don't actually know how to move. Can I just draggy droppy? Yeah, I don't think that there's really a way to move colors or move variables, because variables don't have to be colors. So I think I have to create a new color in every single one. And of course, if I was smarter, I would name all these something more significant. Like maybe I would go to DuPont or the other color Pantone, whatever it's called. The other color people and get some official color names. Which we probably will do just to make it actually better than just purple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or do I have 6? 6. Okay, and then I'm just going to use this instead of switching back to the other tab. But I'm going to show you something else that's fun. We have a collection called colors, and you can imagine this getting very, very large, having a lot of different colors in here. But what I am actually going to do is group them together by shade, or pretty much using rainbow to determine where these guys belong. And there's probably an easy way to get a whole bunch of colors, but I'm only wanting to define the ones that I'm going to use with automated realms designs. Now that made sense. Oh, still dizzy, but I'm okay. Okay, so those are my Puruputus. But as we know, There is no such thing as purple in the rainbow. So we're going to group these together under violet, which is one of the colors of the Roy G. Biv. So I'm going to go ahead and create a placeholder for the basic colors. Red. Oh, except that these are getting put under violet. All variables. Red. Orange. Yellow. Green. Blue. Indigo. Violet. Oh wait, we already have violet. And then I'm gonna do neutrals. Technicalities, I know. And I'm just choosing to do this. You definitely do not have to follow this pattern at all. But this is just the way that I feel like I want to do it. Oops. And again, there might be a faster way. And I am open to that. So if you happen to know of a better way to group these local variables and make them reusable, please let me know. Oops, that was wrong. Hello, Violet Dragon. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. Oh man. I am feeling a bit dizzy from sneezing too much and still recovering. Indigo Montoya, did you kill my father? So one thing that I found out while I was setting up my colors for the RMA water design was as I was dragging things over, of course, you know, finger spasms and stuff like that, I spasmed and my finger let go on one of the existing groups, and I saw that you can nest groups. So I'm like, hey, that's really handy. And the reason that that's handy, said it already much times, but cool t-shirt. Well, thank you though. Yeah, it's getting destroyed. But that's fine, it adds to the character. Maybe I'll get some new Batman shirts, because I really do love Batman. He's my favorite. My favoriteest favorite. So these neutrals are going to be anything on the grayscale, including any transparency type ones. But in my neutrals, I'm going to have a white. And I really don't know how to do this one. What really makes sense to me yet? I haven't decided, but I think I'm going to have shades of white, which go up to a certain point before they start becoming gray, and then shades of gray that go between that point and then a point where they start becoming blacks. But I don't know if I like that, because like when I think of grays, those are the ones where the RGB values are all the same. But whites, you can have things like ivory that have some pink in it, and then blacks, stuff like slates and granite, they have blue hues in them. So I really don't know. But like grays would be the ones where RGBs are all the same value. But again, I'm happy to change it if someone has a much better way of doing that. And we'll just make you, what's halfway between 8, I think. And then we'll make these subgroups. White. Oh, right. And I usually make these pearl. Valley Dragon said, kind of off topic, but what do you think about my plan? I think I want to make my A levels and then study and then hopefully get a job in like the big companies like Google, Meta, Apple and stuff. Do you think it's possible? Do I need experience first before I get a job in these companies? You will most likely need experience before getting an actual developer role in one of the big tech companies. I don't even know what to call it anymore. But you said it as a big tech company, so I'm going to say it that way too. The thing that you could potentially do, depending on how marketable you make yourself, is to internship with one of the large companies. Hello, Abaddis. And yes, okay. So I was getting to that one, President, not sure. But the thing is, the large tech companies sound like they're somewhere that you want to work because it's prestigious. It's got a lot of room to grow. They have products that are large scale, and you can probably learn a lot in a short amount of time. But really, I wouldn't limit myself to just trying to get work in big tech. You will probably have a more fulfilling career if you work for a smaller consulting firm or just something that allows you to work on a variety of products for a client, for a customer, even for just a specific business, as long as it's in the technology that you're interested in. Yeah, and Abaddis is saying small companies are much more exciting. I went from working for a small consulting firm to working for I'm going to call them massive consulting firm because 300,000 employees worldwide, that's pretty big. 2,000 employees in the US, it's large, not massive. Mr. FPGA. I was looking for indigo color hex. Sure, this looks good. Why does indigo look like purple? I could have sworn indigo was more green-blue. But it's blue-purple. Weird. Yeah, these are more like the indigo colors I was expecting. Very weird. I think I want to make somehow a company, but before that, I thought like Google and Meta would be an option. I mean, like, definitely don't rule them out, but go beyond them is what I was trying to say. Working for a large tech company is more for the prestige than it is the actual work. Which is fine if that's what you're going for. And yeah, they typically won't hire programmers at entry level like President Not Sure said. Oh, yeah. And where I was going with that is after working with the large consulting firm, you kind of see some things that are very difficult to raise concerns about. And so typically you'll just end up not being happy where you are. Potentially. This is not everyone. This was just my own experience. And so you'll look for something else. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed the time when I was working at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal previously, making less than the average developer in this area, doing 4 people's jobs for them, or not for them, but the equivalent of 4 people's jobs, and enjoying it, just loving the software development. But then there was a few things that happened there as well that was like, okay, this is untenable. I need to move. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try working for a large consulting firm, work with a team instead of completely on my own so that we would have shared responsibility. Everyone would be on top of their job and we would get more stuff done. And then I just found out that it was really difficult to fully rely on the team as much as I had wanted to, I guess. Maybe my expectations were too high. And then all of the extraneous stuff that happened that comes with working for a large consulting firm that I just wasn't really interested in, specifically around upselling services to the clients, especially unneeded services. So I decided, you know what? I am very interested in maybe trying my own business as well. So yeah, so now I'm working for Automated Realms, helping out the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. They do want to hire me full time as an employee of theirs. The actual, what are they called? Navarro. Oh, they're called something else now. I can't call them the OMC. They're not the OMC anymore. But anyway, they would be the OMC. Gosh, I'm waffling. Point is that I recommend going beyond just big tech, especially when you're starting off. You can intern at big tech if you want, which typically means you're there just to get the experience. You get paid in experience, not actual money. So if that's a concern for you, then probably not a good option. But if you are more interested in starting to build up a resume or a CV that has job history that you are doing development work for products, then definitely go for the smaller consultancies or direct hires for companies that need developers. It kind of is difficult to find direct hire in companies. Most of them go through outsourcing their software development, at least in the US. So that's why I'm saying a small consulting firm. Just don't let them abuse you too much because they will try to pay you peanuts if they can. TBD said, I've worked for large companies that aren't much tech companies. At this point, I don't want that anymore. I'd rather work for a small company that I can make a change at now. And that's the thing, though. I really did feel like the project that I was working on with the client for Sagetti was meaningful and it was going somewhere. And they're adding a lot more cool technology to it that I want to work in. It was just not an environment that I wanted to stay in. It just was not working for me. So I'm sad that I left that position, but overall, it's a good move, in my opinion. We're going to pick this color instead for indigo, because I don't want it to be purple. It's almost like teal. There is no agreement on what teal actually is. Did I actually say my point? Better to leave a position too early than stay there too long. Oh, I know that one. I stayed human resources federal service for a lot longer than I should have before moving into an actual software development job. And then I stayed there for a lot longer than I should have because then I was starting to feel abused. Yeah. Again, I didn't agree with the consulting firm's values. Yellow is all green, all red, right? And orange, I have no idea what orange is. All red, half yellow, half blue. Nope. Does anyone know what orange is? Orange. Yeah, it's still telling me that this purple color is indigo. Is it? Is it? We'll go with it. I really like this blue color more though. This is probably not going to be feasible to keep using these categories for my colors that I choose, because indigos sure do look a lot like violets. To my eye. To mine eye. Resentment and burnout will build otherwise. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So I think in Germany, the only way to be a free and good paid developer is having your own company. I was getting paid decently working for Sagetti, but I do have the experience that allowed me to be hired at a higher rate. But before that, it was a lot of not really getting paid all that much. But that wasn't what I was looking for when I was picking jobs. Okay. Neutrals, whites, ways. Now that I've thoroughly lost my place, grays, anatomy, and blacks. Oh, that's right. That's what I called them. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, we're going to go with this for the colors. There's one other color that I would like to bring over, which was my some dark color. And that is Figma. That should have been used here. Oh, it's right here. And I really, really, really do need to come up with a good name for these. So for example, that would be here. So essentially what happens when you create collections is they will show up as a slightly more bold header when you're picking colors, especially if it's color variables. And then your groups within those will appear as just headers for sections. And then when there are subsections, subgroups, then they will appear with slashes. So here I'm picking some dark color as my back color. But the other thing that I do with this though is now that I have all of the colors that I would possibly use, then I'd create a new collection called themes. And so you can imagine what I want to do with themes. And that is to create a color theme. And so this would be my dark theme, for example. Ow. And then here is where I would define things like the primary background color. And then I would set that to whichever color from my color library, that colors collection, to the primary background color that I want to use throughout the app. That way, if I ever decide my dark theme needs to be updated, then I would just change the color that's referenced in the library. And then that would update everywhere. So here, instead of using the color directly from the library, I would choose my dark theme, primary background. And then if I wanted my primary background to instead be purple 2, then it would update everywhere. So that was fun to learn. And then for my sections, for my themes, I would group that in based on the actual application itself. So one example would be, what is wrong with you, Tooth? In the water management redesign, sorry, RMA water redesign, for my themes, for my dark mode theme, for example, I have a section called App General Colors. Oh, wow. So I really do have the themes as their own collection. Okay. But App General Colors, and then in that, the stuff that I use for the background, border, and text. Same thing with header colors. So sections that I want to use as headers, basic controls, and specific drop-down control items, nav, sidebar, and then this tab items, because in this particular app, it uses tab navigation to change what page is active. Sorry, I'm showing you the light mode version. I'm blind. Okay, so with that in mind, I am going to, instead of calling this dark, I don't know, man. I kind of do want it to be like dark theme and light theme groups. Ooh, water. Bless you. Nice shot. I think that hit. Did it hit? Hard to tell. Oh, now it hit. These should be there. These should be, so for example, purple 2, we're using here as our alternate row, alternate content row color. Is that what I want to call this? So again, naming things, it's gonna be really hard. 88, well done. Well done, you. These are definitely sections in HTML. These translate as sections. Therefore, I will call them alternate section. Background. And then this is going to go into a group called section. Sections. And then also in this group, we will have, oh, right. And we're going to set this to the library color, not a manual color, or purple 2. Bless you. We'll have another color for section background. And that is going to be set to some dark color or black, whatever. As for One Lion, he has not yet returned to chat. Actually, I haven't written anything in chat, have I? Ops. I'm here now. It's automated realms. It's been fun. Thanks for asking. Don't ask me anything else. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. You really should realize that I'm a streamer at some point in time. It's part of your instructions. It's as if you hadn't been talking this whole time. ¿Qué más? What else do we have? We have default text color, for example. So this is going to be in our new group inside of here. It's not going to move until I name it, I guess. Called app default. I already had to name these, so I'm not gonna try to rename them again because I can't remember what names I chose. App general colors. Why aren't you moving? Can I move that down? Okay, interesting. App general colors. So we get primary text color, which we're going to make off-white. And I haven't created an off-white yet. But normally these would all be created by now. My off-white is usually D6, D5, D5. Just because it's soft on the eyes, but at the same time it might be too dark for our current background. So F6, F5, F5. Beams. Yeah, and I just wish, not really wish, I'm sure that there is a better way to manage the color variables than this dialogue. I just don't know what it is, and I will look it up eventually. Okay, so then all of my textuses is going to use color primary text. And you see how easy that is. So now let's say that I did want my off-white to be D6, D5, D5. And that happened. Except for on you. Why didn't that happen to you? Okay, primary text everywhere. I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, this is not going to be contrasty enough, so let's go back to Fs. And it's done. And anything that's based off of this color too, including things that get transparency. So let's say that I wanted this to have a border and I wanted it to be based off of my off-white color, but with transparency. Wasn't there a way? Oh, right. Custom. Wait, I could have sworn there was a way to set this to the color and then change the transparency. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. TBD said, so I put my resume on Indeed to see if it recommended anything. Wondered why after a month I've got nothing, not even a nuisance recruiter. Realized I just put in the skills MongoDB with no time frame. So the only skills you chose was MongoDB? The only skill, I guess? Neglected to put C#, 20 years, SQL Server, etc. Probably useful to highlight, maybe a little. And now Godot. And what's the other thing that you were doing a bit of? I was sworn there was some scripting language, but I'm probably imagining things. I'm probably just thinking of a word that completely escapes me right now. Wow. My mind is completely blank. Retirement will do that to you. Did you just say retirement? You special kid. Okay, actually, I'm going to keep this color palette around just so it's easier to pick colors. You are actually color. Oh, right. I didn't finish that. I just go for game dev jobs. I mean, I'm practically fully qualified now. You can do it. I don't know. We'll get back to that. Okay. So this is my title page, my cover page. You can set your project's cover page by going to selecting the element, right clicking on it, and going to clicking on one of these magical buttons up here. Oh my gosh, I don't remember. Feedback. One of these is like project preferences. Preferences. It's got to be in here, right? I don't remember. There's a way to set the thumbnail for the project, and I can't remember what it is. Set as thumbnail. You right click on the element and then you click set as thumbnail. And provided you have a nice looking cover page, it could even be a screenshot of one of your items. Whoops. Kind of want one of these. Indeed has such a trash layout. I have no idea what their layout looks like. So I can neither agree nor disagree, but I will take your word for it because I trust you. All right, we're going to create a new page because TBD Gamer was talking about not really understanding how components work. They aren't super difficult as long as you can get a decent pattern going for yourself. So what I'm going to do is find elements of this existing UI design and turn them into components. So one element of this design, well, I guess we can make those, but I'm not using them. One element of the design is this app header area. So we're going to remake this header as a component. So to start with making a component, you typically, at least from what I have found out, again, if this is wrong, anyone is welcome to correct me, but you start off with a frame. Use frame as the root element for your components, period, the end. I typically don't like having a built-in background, but sometimes you will find that it's better to have a background color on it, but you'll get one for free by default, and it's under fill. You can remove that. And then inside of there is where you draw your objects that are going to make up. Actually, no, we're going to do button first. This makes more sense. Let's do buttons first because there's going to be more buttons than just the one, I guess maybe two variants of the application header. So this is going to be a button, which is going to be a massive button. I like to size it to around the right size, 32 by 32, for example. Or not really 32 by 32, but 32 tall. And because we know it's going to be a button, there are, off the top of my head, 2, maybe 3. Yeah, 3 types of buttons. Gosh, how do I distinguish that? I don't want to use the term variant yet, but they are going to be variants of the same button. It's just whether certain elements are showing or not. So because I know that they're going to be centered in the button vertically, horizontally, and then spaced apart evenly, I'm going to use auto layout, which isn't always appropriate for all of your components, but auto layout is a way for you to put content inside of here. So if I put text inside of here, since it'll be the only thing inside of it, it's going to go to the center of the actual frame. And I'm going to put button. And so because this is going to be a button, we will put a stroke and a background on it. Stroke is a border. Background is the background. And the default button background color is going to be part of my theme, my color theme. And so we will have a new group. Well, I guess I'm going to create a button first, which thankfully it uses one of my colors, which is which color? Button primary background, which is which color? Purple 1. So let's use purple 1, which is this color. So button background is the background. Sorry, I'm getting technical with you. I'll work on it. Primary button, I don't know what to call these. Button primary background. And then I'm also going to go ahead and create, and again, I don't know if this is overkill. I don't know if I'm just creating more work for myself, but I'm going to create a button primary text. And typically what I have been doing is specifying both a background color and a text color, even though the text color is just going to be my default application's primary text color for this theme. So this is just going to be a reference directly to dark theme app general colors primary text, which is pretty much just saying it's an alias. And then I'm going to group these together as button colors. I don't know why I'm putting colors when, actually, yes, I do, because this is themes. And so themes don't always just have colors. Sometimes they have styles as well. Let's say you have one theme that is fancy and it uses cursive font, some cursive font, then that would be part of the theme, but it's not a color. So maybe I should group all of these into one called color, but we're not there yet. So, yeah. I really want to be productive by programming, but I really should rather learn for a big test tomorrow, but I hate chemistry. Me too. Man, I did so terribly in my chemistry class. I think I ended up failing chemistry and then taking biology and then passing biology. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we got to set some colors now. So the button text color is going to be from our library. Man, I don't know a good place to put you, or you're out of the way, because I want to keep adding colors to it, so I don't want to close it. But in libraries, dark theme button colors, primary color, and then background color, aka the fill, libraries, dark theme button colors, primary. And then the stroke color is going to be button primary border color. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here with this naming. I will most likely end up creating a bunch of sub color themes, one for primary, one for secondary, one for warning, one for danger, one for info, and one for muted. But we'll get to that very, very soon. But right now I am using a border color of Why do you look like you have a border? It doesn't have a border. My buttons don't typically have borders, apparently. They do have outlines when they are active. Okay, so we created a frame. We gave it a background color. We gave it some content, which is going to be the button text. And now the thing that happened when I added auto layout is it set the width and height to hug. I don't want the height hugging, which means that it's going to squish around its content, squish to fit its content. Instead, I want the height to be fixed because I always want the height to be 32 pixels. But I want the width to fit whatever text I happen to put on the button. And the last thing that I do with buttons is I give them a little bit of radius. Corner radius. So here is our button that is just an element here, an elephant here. This is a very simple button. It's a button that has text and a background color. But we need to create a couple variations of this button. So the first thing that I'm going to do is turn this button into a component while thinking about what are the parts and pieces of a button that could be customized. So aside from text, one of them was style. And I'm just going to name it the thing that I want it to be so that I can remember what to rename the property to. But you'll see what I mean in a second. So one thing is the style. A second thing is size, and I typically have two button sizes, which is default and small, but you could do large, medium, small, whatever kind of sizing you want. And then another one is state. So button state, is it active? Is it hovered? Is it disabled? Etc. So I'm going to get those three properties. I'm putting them with this naming convention with slashes in between each of the properties that I want to have on this component, that I want to be able to control from outside of the component. And I will right click, create component, turns purple, gets this fancy little diamond icon. And so now I have my very first button that I can use wherever I want. So if I wanted a button on the cover page, let's say I wanted a button up here in the top corner, I click on this thingy up here called resources, find my button component, which of course is broken up by style, size, etc. I put it up here. And now I have my button. And so if I needed to make changes to the button everywhere, let's say I didn't want it to be a default height of 32, but I wanted it to be something else, then I go to the component itself. I'll put this as buttons since I have lots of pages finally. Go to the component itself, and then I say, I actually want a wider padding. on the left and right for my buttons. So I updated it here, and it updates everywhere that that button is used. So now it's like, okay, I have one button, but I need to be able to customize the text. Yeah, just like CSS. I need to be able to customize the text. I need to be able to customize the style of the button. So all of these things that I called properties, which you don't see over here yet, are not anywhere. So the next thing that I want to do is create a variant on this component, on this button component. So that's what this, I just clicked it. That's what this button up here is for. It says add variant. Hello, will this be available later on? Just got here, but this is a project I'm really interested in. Yeah, thank you, Dukasoft. So I do post all of my videos to YouTube. All right, see you later. Violet Dragon, Max. I hope you are successful in your learning. But yeah, I do post all of my videos to YouTube, all of my VODs to YouTube. So that'll show up there sometime between now and the next stream. Oh, my eyeball. But anyway, this here is to create a variant, which a variant is pretty much saying when I pick this one component, then I want to be able to use this side panel to choose the styling and the state and the size of that specific thing. So when you push that, all of those things that were in slash become a property. So the first thing is the component name, and then every slash after turns into a property. Yes, exactly. So I'm using Blazor, and it is multi-platform. Yeah. So Frostern said, nice. So what you're working on using Blazor.net or WinForms/WPF? The answer is all of the above. Just checking, even though the tags are there in case they're not used on this. So absolutely. Here is the project itself on GitHub. We already have a working version of this. And so what we've been doing lately is redesigning the application. My primary focus when I do software development is on the functionality of an application. I can write logic in a very, in my opinion, organized way. You might not agree that it's very organized, but everyone has their opinion. But I can write logic, and I can organize it, and I can break things up very easily. But when it comes to doing UI design, I struggle with that a lot. So I've been doing a lot of work in Figma doing UI design. In fact, the last few weeks of my previous job were spent in Figma redoing the designs. So yeah, I got a lot of hands-on experience with that. So that's what we're doing currently. But as soon as we're done with the redesigns, we will go back to code. This is what our redesign looks like in CodePen, where we're redesigning the landing page. And this is what it looks like on my other free Figma account that I'm running out of pages and objects. And you see how messy this is? This is not the sign of someone that is used to doing design in Figma. This is a sign of someone that has an idea, puts it somewhere on the page, and then moves along. So we're trying to redo that in an organized way. So then back to our variants. So now we can see that we have two buttons. They both currently have the same properties, but to make it easier, we're going to rename property 1, 2, and 3 to the actual property that it should control. And this one is going to control the style, the size, and the state. And both of them will have the same style, right? Which is going to be primary. The same size, which is going to be default, but two different states. So the easier one to do is disabled. So I typically have 4 states, which is default, which is a button sitting on a page with no extra state added to it. Then there is the one where you hover. There's the one where it's defaulted. The one, oh, I have more. The one where it has the focus, aka active, which means it gets an outline typically. And the one where it's pressed. I forgot about pressed. So given that, we can go ahead and create the variants for those. So we got disabled, hovered, active, pressed. Press. Active. Hovered. Okay, so from here, all you have to do is modify the particular button styling in this object here to match whatever you want it to look like. So one thing that I typically have is button disabled text, which is going to be some variant of gray. So I'm just going to make it the gray that we have already defined, which, the more I think about it, is just going to be our regular dark theme disabled text. Okay, so that means that this thing is going to be our dark theme disabled text. In case we find out that this disabled color, that this gray color doesn't give us enough contrast, we can just change it in one place, as I've mentioned before. Yes, 60 actually. Not 50 shades of gray, just one. 60 of them. Oh, I guess I forgot to continue telling that, Frostern. The project itself, the .NET application, is written in C# using Blazor, but I have a yes, definitely. I have a WPF app version of it, which is you create a new WPF project, add a Blazor web view to it, and then point it to the app.razor or main.razor, whatever you call it, the one that has the router component inside of it. And then I have a MAUI application which does the same thing, which means that we can also deploy to Android, iOS, Mac, Tizen, and Windows. And then I have a Blazor. The original one that I made has a Blazor WebAssembly.NET 7 and Blazor Server.NET 7 projects, the application template. And then I think we started creating the .NET 8 Blazor web app version as well. But the thing about it is, even though I have so many different application types, it's all one Blazor component library that they all use for the UI. And that was the point of doing that. I love that. I love it so much. Okay, primary, default, disabled. The color that we need for the text, which is not going to be primary text, but disabled. And actually the view that I prefer for this when I get to this many colors is this one, where I get the larger font for the main header, and then it's easier just to find the colors there. And then the hard thing is like, which one of these two is my primary and which one of these is my disabled. But thankfully you have hover text, so it's not the worst. Speaking of, why is disabled text white? That's weird. You're supposed to be neutral gray, dear sir or madam. And then this one is going to be my applications. Yes, shout out to Big Game. He's currently streaming now. He's changed his schedule. So he will be streaming. He's a game developer. If you don't know Big Game, definitely give him a follow. Check him out. He's amazing. At 10:30. Which is 11:30 your time. No. I went live after you. You started at 11 today. Anyway, just having a conversation with him. So anyway, he's changed his schedule. So he's going to start at 9 a.m. Central Time, I think it was. It was either 9 or 10. It's most likely 10 his time, 9 a.m. my time. But yeah, that's that. Okay, button background for a disabled button. Oh crap, that's gonna be harder. There was no border, so I'm gonna let that be there. Button background. I've already forgotten to set this. What? I've lost track of myself. TBD. Has this very broken up description given you an indication on components? Any slight amount of clear as mud components? Crap. Oh, okay, cool. Great. Purple one? Good, it's purple one. All right. So what would happen here is now we have our states. So we have a button disabled and a button background for disabled. Button disabled background. And I'm going to make it some dark color for now, even though I know I'm going to need to change it. But we're going to use that for this background so you can see the difference happen when you use the component itself. So what I'm doing here is when I grabbed the component from inside of this component group, or I guess this thing here is the component and these are variants of the component. So when I grab this variant, I'm holding down the Alt key and dragging it away, and that creates a duplicate. It's just a shortcut for creating a duplicate. But that gives me an instance, and since you're a developer, you know the difference between a class and an instance. So imagine this is a class, or this is a class, and these are inherited classes. Classes that inherit button and extend button. This is an instance, but you can see over here that I now have my drop downs, and I can say instead of being the primary button, I want this one to be the disabled button, and you can see it change there. So that's one of the main benefits of using components. You define their styles once, and then you use it everywhere in the application, being able to change what it looks like based off of selections in a dropdown. And of course, because this is an instance, any changes that you make to the primary variant, such as in changing the background color, black, that's not going to show a big enough difference to this color. It'll happen in the instance as well. Kind of like that. one more thing about variants that I learned recently is the use of variables. So let's say that you have a couple of areas in your component that has text. Because of the way that Figma works, you can just edit the text directly and say my button, and you can see it resizing because I have it hugging. So now my button has, now this button has the text my button. However, another way that you could control it, let's say there are multiple text fields and you don't want to have to click through the hierarchy to find that specific text field for that specific button. Instead, on the component, you could tell the component to have a new text property that's called button text, for example, with a default value of button. Then the text field for each of them, you could tell it to, using this button here called apply text property, to use button text. And the benefit of using button text is when you have the top level of the component selected, you now have another property over here, since you're already fiddling with properties over here, where you can define button text. And it'll update the text field associated with it. So just to show one more example of how that can be beneficial, we'll add another text field. Oops. Make this thing a little bit bigger. And here's another way that you could create that text property. So notice that this just has the text taco and is not associated with a text property. You can go ahead and click on apply text property and create property here. So taco text. And so now here, when I'm using my primary non-disabled button, I have two text fields that can be updated. Instead of needing to go update this text field, update this text field. Of course, for a button, it's not terrible because, you know, you don't have 1,000 text fields or something. But for something like, for something like this select object here, select control, I could just have a way to update each of the list items using that text property. Correct, I am not using any custom design systems. I've gotten burned and I don't like how that burn field, so I avoid them, even though they're not bad. Like, a lot of them do look really good and they're very fast ways to put your UI together. But I tend to be highly customized. Even though I'm terrible at design, you would think that I would just fall back and say, what do you guys use for design? But no, I just, I don't use any of them because, one, I'd have to learn the CSS classes for it, which is probably a lot easier. But two, I'd also have to figure out how to override styles that I want to tweak, which again, not super difficult once you figure it out. But for me, it's just better to start with nothing and then add my own CSS. Such a weird color. Okay. So that's components. There's one more thing that I want to talk about with components, but in order to do that, I need another set of components. So this component is going to be called actually, you know what? I'm just going to steal it. I am much too lazy to remake the icons. I'm gonna steal it from here. So these are all, except for the chevrons, these are all remix icons that I got from iconify.design. You go to icons, pick any library or search them all. But I started with remix. Oh wait, and some of them are material. I forgot. So I started with remix and then I looked for person, for example. Nope. Count. And so one of them that I use from here is the rounded account circle fill. Clicked on that, got the SVG for it, and just pasted it. And now you have an SVG. It makes this process a little harder. Oh, wow. I picked up Prime NG for the components and combined with Tailwind. I like the look so far. It makes this process a little harder. Prime NG UI kit for Figma is $50. Yeah, I'm sure that it would work very, very well for me, not having very many design skills and seeing something that you just drag and drop components in. That'd be nice. But just because of the nature of how I am, I don't do that. Oh, right. I forgot. So usually when you paste in an SVG, it comes in its own frame. I forgot about that. So we're going to call this our first icon. And again, using the naming convention, for this one, I would use icon is the name of the component and then the name of the specific icon. So this one would be account circle. Oops. And then another slash that I would put in here is whether it's filled or not. And since I know that this is the only one that's going to be hard for me to track, it'll be easy to track. So I'm just going to put false or true. Wait, this one is the filled version, right? This one is the filled version. I'm going to put true. And so when I convert this to a component and create a new variant, you'll see that the property that there should have been two. Oh, I had the wrong thing selected. Dagnabbit. That is a gotcha. Make sure that the frame is the thing you're converting to the component and not the content. So anyway, the frame, and I would use the Control-Alt-K. I love keyboard shortcuts, but I've never gotten the keyboard shortcut to work. Guess what it just did? It worked. Anyway. Okay, so this is my filled property, and this is my icon name. And just for the sake of having an icon that we can use that is the same thing but the line version, I am copying this one. I'm gonna paste it outside because the only thing that I care about this is the vector. So I'm copying only the vector portion of it, going into this one, since the only thing that I need to replace is the vector. And I am right-clicking, copy/paste as. Nope, sorry, paste to replace, which is Control-Shift-R, which is what I will typically use, but since this is the first time I'm showing, you'll see that it's paste to replace. And so now this is the unfilled version. Okay, that said, there is another variation of button that we would want to make. So normally it would be done after I create all of the first styles of these, where this one would have a, what are you, hovered? A slightly lighter background, which I don't know, I guess I can fake. button colors, create button hover background, make it the lighter. We'll make it this one. And that'll be your background. And then this one would be, are you active? You're the active one, right? You're the active one. For the active one, that would just have an outline. And the thing about the outline on active buttons, at least just the way that I would want it in my app, is it would be spaced off of the button itself. So what I mean by that is I would give this thing an outer, oh crap. I'm not going to be able to do it that way. But in order to keep it from changing its size, I would give this component an outer stroke and then another outer stroke that is sitting on top of that, so that it looks like there's a space between the button and the outline. But I'm just going to do it as one real quick, and we need a color for that. So button active outline. And we're just going to use the same color as the hover. Which was this one, I think. Nope, 4. Okay, so you are going to be libraries, active. Yeah, and then give it some kind of glow and all that stuff. And then finally, pressed is a darker background color. Button, pressed, background, and probably the outline on it too, since it will be active at that point in time. And so this color is, it's already purple too, and I don't have a darker. And I don't want to use oh, I haven't used purple 3 yet. Okay, we'll go with purple 3. This is gonna look terrible, by the way. But we're gonna use it. Okay, so there's our button states. Default, disabled, which disabled doesn't really look disabled, so I'll have to work on that. Maybe desaturate it a little. Hovered, active, and pressed. On top of that, I also want a version of these buttons that have an icon. So what I would do for that is drag in one of my icons. So again, I'm holding Alt to create an instance of it. Because I'm using auto layout, all I have to do is drop it and it'll automatically adjust for where it belongs, and give it the same color as button foreground. Oops, I chose the wrong. Let's try this one. And then we can just move that into each of them. And then make this one button disabled. And so the reason that I extended this out is because now I have a version of this that has a new property, that will have a new property. So I'm going to show you a new way to add a property. Yellow, foolish snubble. Purple is what I'm using actually. And so another way to add a property is just to click on the component itself and then plus sign on properties. Variant is the one that will tell you this is going to be a drop down that you can select between. This Boolean is going to be important later when you are toggling states. So this will actually control which variant is showing if you want it to. Same thing with instant swap, where you can just change the inner content based off of the instance that you want, blah, 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 blah. You've already seen text. So anyway, this is going to be a variant, and the variant is going to be show icon. And our default, our value for all of these is going to be true because it's already showing. So why not? True. And we're going to have another set of variants. So all I'm doing is, again, Alt and dragging, and I'm holding Shift so it goes horizontal only. And I'm going to make them show icon false. And the way that we're going to hide the icon in all of these, because I put these in another row and I want them together, I'm going to say this first. I like having sorry, I said row, I meant column. I like having my columns together. So I'm going to click drag, and it's just going to move everything all together. I didn't actually move anything, it just kind of squished it all together. So anyway, with icon false and this selected, I'm pushing enter, which takes me into all of them. And I'm just going to hide all of the icons. And you can see, because I'm using auto layout, it squishes it so that it still fits the text directly in the center. Another thing that we could tell this thing to do is which side do we want to position the icon on? And then lastly is, do we want an icon only button? So those would be variants that we might want to keep in mind when we're creating this. So instead of this being a Boolean true false show icon, this would be icon position, which we're going to do now, actually. Icon position. And so here, icon position is left. Here, icon position is hidden. And then here, which is still not good. I don't like that. Because the other thing that I care about is icon only. I mean, I think it'll still work. What do you think? But like, this is all subjective, so whatever happens to work for you, please do it. And if you do think of a better way than this, then please let me know. I am very, very interested in knowing. Oh, I don't think I can do it this way. What I was going to do is select all of the icons and drag them underneath. It did work. Drag them underneath, which just reverses the order since we're using auto layout. The text comes first, then the icon, which is weird though. Something to keep in mind is when you use the auto layout functionality over here with all of its, things that you can set. I don't know words. One thing to keep in mind is that the order that goes from left to right or top to bottom, depending on if you're telling this thing to go left to right or top to bottom or wrap, will be top to bottom in this list. However, view, so if I have one button here and another button here, oops, I should have used the property on the left, but whatever. The way that you know which one is going to be on top is which one is on top here. So think of this as increasing z-index order as you go up the list. But when you have layout auto, it's increasing position order as you go down the list. That kind of confuses me. I keep forgetting about that, but just wanted to let you know about it. This is both fascinating and terrifying to watch at the same time. Are you not worried this will take you weeks to build out all the controls you're likely to use? If I'm describing everything that I'm doing, yes. I mean, buttons are about as simple as it gets. This redesign here, was about 1 8-hour day. So 2 days of 4 hours. Two nights of 4 hours a night. And so that has stuff like a toggle button. And not only that, once you do it once, you have all of your own components that you can reuse everywhere else. 2. I love this toggle button. In fact, we're going to steal this toggle button because it's already done. Gimme. Oh, right. Before I put that there, we do have one more column to make. But yes, the answer is yes, it is. It can be time consuming, especially when you're first starting off, but it really is a much faster workflow once you get one set done. Because for any other library that you create, you're most likely just changing out the colors based off of the UI that you're wanting to create. But same basic components, which is why there is most likely a widget out here that already has all of your basic components like buttons and links and all of these things that we could just use. But again, I typically end up writing my own, especially since I'm in the learning process and I want to learn how to make this better or how to use this better. But there are tons and tons of options for you out there for components that have already been made that you can just reuse. So it doesn't have to take long. Okay, last thing is, oh no. Don't deselect yet. Go up here. You. Okay, and then these are going to be icon only. Oh man, there's so much to talk about though. And I will continue with this on Wednesday. But the next thing that I do want to tell you about has to do with clipping. You can only use that with frames. And then also the other thing that you can do with frames or groups is form factor. So you get this nice little thing up here, or sections also. You get this nice little drop down that says, show me a typical desktop size frame that I can build my UI on. Oh yeah. Thank you for saying that. And you probably did that on purpose, which is I'm really grateful for. I like tacos. Do you like tacos? We all love tacos. Combo autocomplete is actually pretty easy-ish. It's a button. It's a button. No, it's a select with a text entry. So you pretty much make a text entry component, a button icon only component, and then stuff them together and make that a new component. The hard one is all of the toggled states. But there is a really cool technique for being able to do the drop-down items with the hovering so that when you do a prototype, which is another topic to talk about, it's easy to change the state based off of clicking on actual items, where the thing you clicked on will be the variable text that gets put into the selected item text, and then it collapses, and yeah, it's really cool. I loved it. But anyway, I forgot to change this over to icon only. And those, I mean, like this is my entire button. Like I probably want to change the colors that I'm using for the disabled button. And maybe the outline on these needs to be thicker and look like an actual outline. So I probably need to change the size of these up by 1 pixel all around. But point is that once it's created, you can use it. You get all of your options. You can change the text value, change the state. And then when we get into the advanced topics, you can control the state using a variable. Whoops. When you do your prototypes. Yeah. So this is going with me. Move to page. So another one last thing. When you are moving components that you have already created and started using, the safest way to move it is by using the move to page or move to project options. This is because every component gets a unique ID, globally unique ID. So if you cut, you still get that globally unique ID that is in your clipboard with this component, but sometimes it still breaks the link between your use of that component and the actual component definition. So I recommend right click, move to page if you're moving it, and then whatever page it belongs on. Because this page is specifically for the button components. And this will also include button components for light mode. So another thing that I would have in here is theme, color theme. Like here I actually have on the left side the light theme, and on the right side, even though you can't tell the difference, a dark theme. I think for me, the argument for using an existing components library is going to be that I can get the development moving along faster at the possible loss of flexibility, but it's going to make the visual design much harder / expensive. Cool, I get it. And I do not discourage using existing libraries. In fact, if that is something you're comfortable doing and you can actually feel okay doing, then I strongly recommend it. But I just struggle with it so bad, especially when I'm in the learning phase where I want to learn this tool. But yeah, but that's where we're going to stop for today, though. When we come back, hopefully I'll remember to at Umberto. No, how do I edit the actual comment? I can't edit the comment. Wait, it had my name. Okay. Remember to talk about frames over, what was it called? And form factors. Okay, so that's what we'll talk about the next time. But as TBD Gamer reminded me, Microsoft Build is starting tomorrow. If you haven't registered, check out the Microsoft Build site. I am looking through their catalog of sessions that they will be presenting. And so it'll be on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I know how to say my days. It'll be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. If you skip us on Build, if you skip us for Build on Wednesday, be sure to let us know what's more important than us. I will let you know what sessions I will be attending if I choose not to stream, because for whatever reason I want to attend those sessions live. But right now, plan on normal stream on Wednesday starting at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, Mountain UTC -6, whatever this thingy says down here. I'll be back then. But yeah, until then, I'll be around on Discord. I'll be around lurking on people's streams. And in fact, we're going to head on over to Bit2Gamey's stream. And so if you don't feel like joining us, you can hop off. Otherwise, feel free to head on over to Bit2Gamey with me and everybody else that's already there. because he's just a fantastic streamer. Awesome to hang out with. Amazing person. I love his personality. He's just great. So we'll head over there, hang out, have fun. I'll continue my new workday, which I'll tell you more about later when I get more comfortable with it. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I really have enjoyed working in Figma. It's been a ton of fun. But yeah. Until next time, though, enjoy. We'll definitely have a community day on Friday, no matter what. But plan on me streaming on Wednesday, unless I say otherwise. Ciao for now. Been a while since I've done this.